All right, good afternoon, Indy Ball Nation. A little early afternoon coffee talk, a nice solid Saturday vibe. Halftime in the Villanova-Harvard game. Villanova laying it down, 31-0. First playoff berth for Harvard. It shows. Now, why do I care? Great question. Some of you might not know this, because I don't really give off the academic vibe, and I get that. But your boy here applied to go to Villanova. That's right. And while they did say no, I've been told it was only because I've had some family that went to Villanova. And if that was not the case, instead of saying no, they would have just taken me right out back and shot me. So close. Almost. To our topic at hand. I got two today. We're going to keep it short. Trying to do that with these coffee talks, yes. Well, the first one's a little just Ryan bugaboo thing that something jogged my memory about on the Twitters, which we're calling Twitter because Elon Musk is an idiot. And then the other one is going to be actually a quick call out on a project I'm working on where I'm going to need a little assistance. Mostly from, I guess, players and staff. So, if you're watching, shout out, what's up? But also, if you're a fan who is like, I know a player or a front office personnel who might be able to assist with this, connect. And we'll go with that. So we'll get there. First things first, I got notes because I was going to try to keep this on the rails. It's already going terribly. Let's talk about scheduling. It's a big thing. If you listen to me on Indy Ball Report, which is second straight one of these with Indy Ball Report shout-outs happening, I don't know how I feel about that. But sure. We talk about scheduling a lot and in a slightly obsessive way. I understand that. There's a couple things there. Scheduling is something you have to kind of obsess with if, one, you're trying to assess players and their talent level and team talent level. Because, for instance, if you are crushing and then we find out that you're really only doing this in certain ballparks, altitude parks, things like that, or against certain teams that just aren't that impressive, it's worth noting. That's all. And then again, when it comes to things like the playoffs, which we all have to count or to care about because it's how we decide rings, and rings have value to the people involved. So we are also going to value them. Don't get me on my rant. I will say, playoffs are here for entertainment, I guess, because they're essentially random, but sure. So if we're worried about the playoffs, we have to be worried about how people make the playoffs. And how do you make the playoffs? It's by playing your schedule. Okay. So it tends to get to be a thing that I focus on quite a bit when it comes to balance of the schedule. And why am I thinking about this right now? Well, friends, some of you may be aware, big football game last night, Texas versus Texas A&M. Texas A&M had to win against Texas to finish their undefeated season in the conference and make the SEC title game. They lost. They were number 3 in the country, and they played number 16 Texas. Texas beat them. They miss out. And there's a lot of boo-hooing about it, whatever. I'm not that invested in either team, so I don't really care. But it's not like they're Villanova somewhere where, not to brag, I applied. What has been pointed out since is, yes, Texas A&M went 7-1 in their conference. But if you look at who they played in their conference, which is, 16 teams right now in the SEC? It's enlightening. They beat LSU, they beat Missouri, they beat Florida, Auburn, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Arkansas, also known as 7 of the bottom 8 teams in the conference. And then they played one of the top 5 teams in the conference, Texas, and they lost. So they did not beat a team above 500 in the conference. They did not beat a team in the top half of the conference. Yet they sat there in position to go to the championship game in the conference. And it seems they've been foiled, but we'll see how the day plays out, I guess. All of that to say, it just reminded me of some things we're dealing with in Indy Ball. And if we're going to choose to find it important, we'll choose to find it important. It's up to you. I'm just saying the thing. Every league, to be fair, struggles with this. MLB struggles with this. NFL doesn't even pretend to do even scheduling. NFL is like, if you win your division, you're playing a collection of the top teams in last season's, division winners. Like, they're going for ratings only. They're an entertainment product straight up, and I'm pretending. I kind of respect it. The NBA, they got weird stuff scheduling-wise, but they've kind of ironed out a lot of it, I feel like. I don't know how hockey works. That's on me. But college football is a funny example because it was so simple. There was two 6-team divisions for the longest time in the SEC. You played the other like 5 or 6 teams in your division. That was your conference or your division schedule. You played 2 randoms from the other side. It kind of rotated, and that's what you got. It was pretty close to an even schedule, and your conference record decided who won your division and went to your conference championship. You follow. And now we have the Texas A&M situation. You see how it's a problem, and the bigger your league gets, the bigger divisions get, the bigger the problem is because you can't play everybody. Right. So let's assess what we have going on in Indy Ball these days, because it's a bit of a mixed bag. The Atlantic League was probably the least controversial, and now it sounds like they might be one of the more controversial ones, because if you don't know, it sounds like the Atlantic League is going to be going one division rather than the traditional 2 that they've been doing since forever. Interesting choice, I would say. It's only an interesting choice because they are not really changing their scheduling up, right? So that leaves us in this weird world. Let me pull my doc up here. Beautiful. Shout out to Ed for this one. Ed, you know who you are. I love you very much. I owe you an email. There is no even scheduling happening. We'll give York as an example here. Keeping in mind, these teams are rumored to be playing all in one division, right? Yet York is going into this only having to play Gastonia, Southern Division powerhouse, former Southern Division, powerhouse, 6 times, all at home, and High Point 12 times, 6 and 6, home and away. But they will have to play Lancaster 18 times. They're going to play Staten Island 24 times, which that could be a mess. Who knows what Staten Island looks like this year? So you can see how things can get out of whack quickly. They play Hagerstown 15 times, only 3 on the road. It gets a little weird, right? Especially when you start to have, like the Atlantic League had last year, a little bit more of a, there's top teams and bottom teams. It really matters. If all the top teams are beating each other up, how many times you're playing those bottom teams? Hagerstown has been trash. I think they're going to start a bounce back this year with Mark Menikazi getting over there, but it matters how often you play Hagerstown, guys. And it gets a little crazy when you're looking at teams like, what was my preferred one here? Long Island will be playing Hagerstown. What are the odds? 24 times. What are the odds scheduling turns out for Long Island? 24 times playing Hagerstown this year. They are playing Lancaster 24 times also, but they're playing Gastonia and High Point, the 2 powerhouses of the former Southern Division, 12 times total between the 2. It makes you go, wait, hold on, because if we're all competing for the most wins, but you have a number of games that are easier to win, there are obvious issues. I don't need to reiterate it. We all follow. But that's why we get a little hysterical about, like, come on, let's just play each other evenly. Especially the Atlantic League does not have the most challenging footprint, by the way. It's like the Coast and the Charleston and Lexington teams. We can make this work. Moving along, I'm not going to harp on the Atlantic League, but it is a good example of why it was simple, now it's not. The Frontier League also has the issue, right? The Frontier League just went to their 4-division setup last year, and you can see how it gets a little funky, right? Because we have, it's straightforward enough, right? Sussex, New York, Down East, and New Jersey are all one division. Now, Quebec, Tri-City, Ottawa, Brockton, and Trois-Rivières, they are another division. So 2 sides. Different number of teams, too. I'm going crazy. I know they're trying to fix that with expansion, but sure. The reason that I kind of spiral out on this, right, is because there are 2 wild cards that make it out of each side, the east side and the Atlantic side and the Midwest side. And when you have uneven divisions and the 2 divisions are playing different schedules, you start to see how things can work out strangely, perhaps. Example here being the New York Boulders and the Sussex County Miners getting wild cards over Ottawa, who Ottawa didn't have a stellar year, but they finished just behind the last playoff spot. But when you look at it, Ottawa, New York and Sussex, they had to play Down East and New Jersey, not very good teams, and then they played each other. Also, they weren't super great teams. Meanwhile, Ottawa had to deal with Brockton, who was below average, but only about as below average as Down East, not nearly as bad as New Jersey, and the same would be said for Trois-Rivières. And then they had to scale all the way up to play Tri-City and Quebec. That's a much more difficult division to play through. And then they come 1 game away. It looks like 1.5 if you want to, not playing even numbers of games. I'm going to lose my mind, but sure. That's why Frontier League probably could work out a more even situation. If you're going to do a wild card, you should have fairly equal schedules. That's all we're saying. Finally, the American Association, the only weirdness you're onto there is who's going to take the trips to Cleburne, who's going to go to Winnipeg, and it kind of varies, like how many of the Chicago teams have to get down to Cleburne and vice versa. So that's another conversation. It's hard to do any sort of even scheduling when, no matter what, Cleburne's going to do a ton of travel because that's who they are, but, whatever. But they're also playing teams who have to travel a while a lot of the time, so different conversation, but they're pretty close to okay, it is what it is. Finally, there's the Pioneer League, who they have not announced their schedule yet. It's because they're doing a travel team this year. That team's odds on gonna blow. Let's be honest, they always do if they're for a travel team. It's just hard to recruit guys to it. So they already have the uneven scheduling of they did 2 half system, and I think YOLO and Oakland played each other 18 to 24 times in the second half alone. Obviously, that's not going to be equal when other teams are getting to kind of beat up on the Nocos, the Rocky Mountains, and the, help me, the other one. Oh, gone but not forgotten, except completely forgotten, Grand Junction. It's tough. Great Falls was also terrible for a while. Even scheduling the Pioneer League would go a long way. They're not going to do it. It's going to be a disaster. Keep an eye on that one. That was just me complaining and understanding. We're trying to explain to you guys when it comes up later why it bothers me and why maybe you should care about it or not. I appreciate that. Let's talk about my other thing here, and we'll move right along as I try to house a little more coffee and pull up another sheet. I will not be editing that out. It's coffee. It's coffee talk, so if there's no coffee, if it's just talk, this is all a lie, and what am I doing it for? I've had a long-term goal for a few years here of doing a player survey. I bring this up now because the NFL recently put out the NFL Players Association put out their player survey, which is surveying players about their experience with the different organizations so they can grade the organizations based on how player friendly they are. It's also interesting because the NFL just basically made a motion, I think, in court to say that this was not fair and it shouldn't be allowed, something about it. It doesn't matter. I don't take it seriously because they, if you want to talk about people who don't value their workers, it'll be the CTE factory that is the NFL. Beyond that, though, I have always wanted to do a player survey for Indy Ball. And why? Accountability. Accountability is so important. It's for tracking trends. It's for crediting teams when they're making an effort. It's for responding to sudden changes and things. We've all seen, if you've been in these Indy Ball streets, you know a team that was going great. All of a sudden, money ran short and things got bad quick. It's making it so guys can see that quickly and respond to it, not get themselves in a situation where they go to a team because of their reputation, not knowing that reputation doesn't apply anymore. It's for, there's new ownership somewhere. Let's see, are they a step up? And maybe guys shouldn't be avoiding certain locations because of what we used to think of them. Or maybe they should start avoiding somewhere because they're not what they used to be. Careers are short, and the wrong decision for players or even coaches can sidetrack your whole life. So that's why it's important. Accountability is good for everybody. It's good for the players. It's good for the coaches, for the teams, for fans, which maybe I should do a fan survey as well. That's a different thing. But for leagues, it's good for all of Indy Ball. And when things are good for Indy Ball, it's good for all of baseball. That's a bigger thing with this channel. We know that. The topics I want to cover, there's a bunch. Treatment of families, food and meal, quality, nutrition, clubhouse quality and space, the training staffs, the weight rooms and equipment, assistant coaching, travel, housing, the managers, all of that, certainly ownership. So there's going to be a lot to cover here. And I'm putting this out there to everyone now, and maybe I should have led with this because who knows what sickos are still watching / listening, but shout out. Maybe you're the right sickos, actually. I'm going to need some assistance. I need some feedback for sure from some players in the know who are like, hey, and maybe some managers even. Hey, here's some things that would be good to ask about. And also, I'm going to need someone who can do a little English to Spanish because the Espanol is important. I'm not going to go and get Japanese translation going as well because I just don't have it in me, but going to try to do both. I'm going to try to get the survey up and running within the next few weeks, hopefully, before it's too late and guys have made all their free agency decisions. And we'll go from there. But Yeah, that's been a long-term project. I'm finally making moves on it, and we'll see. The NFLPA says it's gone a long way for them to helping guys, and I think Indy Ball is a situation where there's so much where you're relying on the communication with other people. And how was your experience here? What was it like with them? Whether it's a manager or an organization or whatever, it's maybe if you don't know somebody somewhere, you're going in blind. And I think we can kind of get ahead of that, work together, and make a more collective situation, right? So I'll put that hopefully together in a way where everything can be anonymous and we can, make sure there's good accountability on all ends of things here. Beyond that, that's it. That's what we got today. Go watch some football. Go decorate for your favorite winter holidays. Whatever you want to do. I'm Ryan from Indy Ball Nation. Have a good one. Next time. Until next time when we do coffee or whatever the hell.